the second video where I go over the math and the design, I guess. Essentially, this is the raw formula, and all of the numbers I got for the last video comes from this. It's a very complicated formula, as you can see, but we're going to work through it. Don't worry. Now, look at the diagram in the bottom. You can see that the notebook cover is just a very large piece of rectangle with the sides folded in. So it's very easy to map out where everything should go. Except you have to make room for everything that will disappear somehow in the process. Now, the first three components of the formula is very easily visualized on this graph, but essentially the M, which stands for extra length for movement, is the red parts. You want to have those because when you are unfolding or opening the notebook and closing it, there will need to be some movement happening, and you want to save for that. Now, for R, which stands for ridiculousness, it basically stands for whenever you have to pull something inside out, like for the right side to face out, there will be some length disappearing, and that's small but important. And finally, seam allowance. If you're not using a serger in any kind, it's very necessary to save a specific amount of seam allowance so you can, pay attention to where are you sewing and where the fabric's edge is going to be lining up on the sewing machine. And everything for the width of fabric formula is basically the same except the G part, which stands for gap. Now on this diagram, gap is the yellow part right here. I'm so sorry if you are colorblind. I'm trying my best to use my nails to indicate where they are. Essentially, gap means the little, very tiny strip, the distance between the edge and where I'm sewing. So the reason you want to have them for calculation is because to secure the flaps folded in, you have to sew on this line and this line. And essentially, you'll create a even shorter or smaller room for your notebook pages to, or the cover to, slide in this little slot. And yeah, your typical ridiculousness and seam allowance. Here are some common measurements for each of those distances, and if you are using thicker fabric, you might want to increase everything by, like a specific amount. And that is not where the possibility ends. For example, I made this early on in the prototyping stage. So this kind of thing can actually, I can unbutton them and adjust to the different thicknesses of books with the same, like cover size. And just try.